It is the Bobby Moe Show, your favorite colonial podcast. I'm Chris Shovlin, the play-by-play voice of the Robert Morris University football and basketball teams. And today, we're going to talk about rowing. We have a couple of guests from the women's crew, and they are Jamie Sanner and Sebastiana Lopez. We're going to talk about rowing, and right now, they've just started their season. It's a big campaign this year out on the waters. We'll do that next on the Bobby Moe Show, presented by Dollar Energy Fund. Stay with us. This winter, many families in our area are struggling to make ends meet and keep their homes warm. You can make a difference by making a donation to Dollar Energy Fund. Your contribution will be matched dollar for dollar by Dollar Energy Fund's utility partners, and 100% of all donations will be used to help local families maintain or restore basic utility services. No one should have to face a Pittsburgh winter in the cold. Help spread the warmth to your neighbors in need and donate today at dollarenergy.org. Welcome back to the Bobby Moe Show, presented by Dollar Energy Fund. We are talking Robert Morris University rowing this week, and we've got a couple of guests with us. We're going to start with Jamie Sanner, and just to give you a little lead in, the Robert Morris University rowing team opened the 2022 spring season this past weekend by taking part in the Aquacon Sprints in Fairfax Station, Virginia at Sandy Run Regional Park. The Colonials braved Mother Nature, including 30-mile-per-hour headwinds, to christen their spring campaign. And RMU had a pair of varsity 4+ boats take part in the sprints, recording times of 11:43:39 and 12:16:52 respectively. The RMU varsity 4+ boat finished third, with senior Isabel Neville serving as the coxswain. The second RMU varsity 4+ boat finished fifth, with senior Jamie Sanner as the coxswain. And Jamie is our first guest from the rowing team with us here on the Bobby Moe Show in this week's edition. Jamie, I've got to ask you first and foremost about braving those weather conditions. It must have been brutal out there at that match.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. So yeah, it definitely was really tough conditions. It was probably the toughest race that I've ever experienced with the 30-mile-an-hour winds. At one point, it felt like we were moving backwards, not even really moving forwards. So, but the girls definitely stayed strong, and I was able to lead them through the race as the coxswain.
Speaking of that position, the coxswain, let's talk about what your job is in the boat.
Yeah, so as a coxswain, you have to steer the boat down the race course. You have a rudder that you're in charge of, and then you are also talking to the rowers, letting them know where they are during the race, giving them encouragement, giving them motivation, giving them technical calls. Basically, just you're that voice that they don't have while they're rowing.
You have to really have good communication skills with that. And at the same time, you have to have some pretty good vision. What are you actually looking for while you're moving down the water?
Yeah, so in a spring race season, it is a typical 2,000-meter race course. And at that, it's straight, and you have buoys on either side of you. So I'm basically looking at both buoy lines and looking at the middle to make sure I can keep a straight point.
Okay. Let's talk about, getting ready for the season. I know that this was the season opener. You've got a lot of events coming up in the very near future. This is the spring campaign. And I know before we started recording here today, we were talking about the weather conditions in training right now. It hasn't been ideal, but fortunately, it looks, at least today, like the weather's starting to turn for you.
Yeah, it's definitely been a rough spring so far with the water level of the river, and then in addition to the windy conditions or the cold weather temperatures. But hopefully, fingers crossed, it's supposed to be like 70 today. So fingers crossed that it stays that way in the near future.
Absolutely. Now, you train on the Allegheny, is that correct, or on the Ohio?
The Ohio River.
It is the Ohio. The boathouse is the Midge McPhail boathouse. It's on the island, Neville Island, in the Ohio River, and obviously that's where the Island Sports Center complex is. Let's talk about the equipment that you have and the ability to train on the Ohio. And I realize that right now, with the currents, as you mentioned, and the depth of the river, there's probably a lot of stuff floating around in there that you have to watch out for as well.
Yeah, we definitely have to watch, especially near shore. a lot of trees fall in the river, and whenever we row, we're in the dark early in the morning. So you definitely kind of have to be on the lookout, see as much as you can in the dark, and hope that there's nothing in the way.
Yeah, for sure. Again, there's so many challenges, but one of them is the fact that you get up so early in the morning to do your training. What kind of experience is that, especially being a student athlete, when you have to uh, do that, get trained, and then get back to class?
So yeah, it's definitely a lot early than most of my friends wake up. We have practices at like 5:15 in the morning, so I wake up typically like 4:45. Um, and that definitely requires motivation and determination to work for your other teammates. And then also, um, you have to go to bed earlier. So I typically try to go to bed at like 10, which is definitely difficult if you have a lot of homework to do. So definitely finding that time throughout the day to do your work and not saving it all for the nighttime is important.
Jamie, how did you get into the sport originally? Did you start in high school, or was it a club sport for you?
So I actually was a novice rower my freshman
Oh,
year. I
okay.
had no experience with rowing. I played soccer and ran track in high school. And at a registration day, I came across the rowing table and ran into Carol, and she was the novice coach at that point. And really just felt the excitement of the team, the camaraderie of the team, the community that we had. And I knew that that was something I wanted to be a part of. And so I said, why not try it? I'm in college. And I gave it a shot. And then I rode my first 2 years, and then had I was diagnosed with an injury, and then transitioned to Coxswain the last 2 years.
Okay. How rewarding has it been for you?
It's been really rewarding. I think there's been a lot of growth I've seen in myself individually, but even in my teammates throughout the 4 years. And it's been great to be able to be alongside them.
Speaking of teammates, we're going to have one of your teammates, Sebastiana Lopez, joining us coming up next. Stay with us. You're listening to the Bobby Moe Show here on the RMU Athletics Game Day app.
Chick-fil-A Robinson will brighten your day with their new chocolate fudge brownie, mac and cheese, and cheese sauce. Chick-fil-A's chocolate fudge brownie is crafted with layers of fudge, a cake-like middle, and topped with flaky chunks of chocolate. The mac and cheese is a premium blend of cheeses coming together for a nice, crispy layer on top of warm, creamy Chick-fil-A deliciousness. The cheese sauce at Chick-fil-A makes waffle fries even more yummy. Stop by Chick-fil-A Robinson and treat yourself to their new brownie, mac and cheese, and cheese sauce today. Serving you with care, Chick-fil-A Robinson.
It's the Bobby Moe Show here on the RMU Athletics Game Day app, sponsored by Dollar Energy Fund. Support Dollar Energy Fund today and help your neighbors in need stay warm this winter. Find out how a small contribution can score big with those in need. Visit dollarenergyfund.org or text the word WARM, WARM, to 53555. That's WARM to 53555. Well, as we were talking with Jamie earlier, it is starting to get a little bit warmer outside. Sebastiana Lopez is a member of the Robert Morris University rowing team as well, and she joins us here on the Bobby Moe Show. Sebastiana, let's talk about the elephant in the room, and that is the weather and how it is finally starting to change, and what effects it has had on you and your teammates in getting set for this spring season.
Definitely, the weather has not been cooperating, especially because we really are eager to like go out and take our strokes and be able to go out as a boat and as a team. But the weather has not been very nice to us. But in the other hand, we have been very excited and still making it through and still having those competitions and learning from them and growing from them.
Again, the training regimen for rowing is very, very difficult, and obviously it's rigorous as well. And every time I've talked to a member of the Robert Morris women's rowing team, they tell me that they're in the greatest shape of their lives from all the training that they go through. Is that the way you feel?
Definitely, I feel as a coxswain, more looking at the rowers, they have been putting a lot of work throughout a lot of the seasons, and they have been going 1,000% just because they really are really eager to win some medals this season and be a really good team.
Sebastiana, were you also exposed to the sport prior to coming to Robert Morris, or are you a novice once on campus?
No, I started in middle school in 7th grade. I started with just putting my interest in the team, and I rode at Row New York in New York City, and it was a team that I obviously don't ever want to forget. But I really love this sport, and I decided to do it also in college, and I'm enjoying my team now and the different accomplishments we have earned as a team.
What has been the biggest difference between rowing on the waters in and around New York City as compared to Pittsburgh?
Definitely the amount of just the bigger body of water is definitely very different and very scary. But other than that, everything is a little bit more of the same.
How good a swimmer are you?
I can pass a swim test, and that's all I'm telling you.
I think that's a fair answer to a bad question. Um, us talk a little bit about your high school rowing experience. You grew up in Elmhurst, New York. You went to Benjamin Cardozo High School, and I'm just wondering, starting out at a young age, what influences you had from high school? Perhaps a coach, perhaps a teammate, perhaps somebody else in the sport. But what gave you inspiration to keep this going?
One thing that has definitely kept me going, especially during my early years of rowing, is my teammates. My teammates have been such a key part of me continuing the sport and just falling in love with the sport all over again. And I feel like that's a team can be such a big inspiration, and I think that's my big inspiration.
I know that we were talking about the races that you had in Fairfax, Virginia this past weekend. I know that really the lion's share of your schedule is still coming up. You're going to be in Philadelphia on April 16th for the Kerr Cup.
Yes, we
Uh,
are.
and a lot of big stuff coming up. A lot of races here in Pittsburgh as well. Let's talk about the schedule moving forward.
We have many different races coming up, and we're all excited to go kick a lot of different people's teams. But I think since our packed schedule just creates new opportunities and new experiences as a team overall.
I asked Jamie earlier about balancing the books and rowing and being a student athlete. How tough has it been, particularly having to get up so early and perhaps go to bed so early as well and maintain your studies?
It definitely has been a challenge, but I feel like the support of my teammates and my coaches and a lot of professors knowing that student athletes really have it different than regular students. That has been helping a lot, but just accommodating that and having the support of everybody else makes it a little bit easier.
Okay, what's your major?
My major is communications with a concentration in journalism.
Okay, very good. Jamie, I want to pull you back into the conversation as well. What are you majoring in?
I'm majoring in statistics and predictive analytics with a finance minor.
All right, super. And again, battling the elements out there, going through the rigorous training it takes to be a rower and a coxswain, and of course, looking forward to the future for both of you. I know that it's a delicate balance being a student athlete in your positions at Robert Morris University, but we want to wish you the best of luck the rest of the way down the line. I'm going to ask you a couple of closing questions, and I'm going to pose this to both of you. Sebastiana, what's the best thing about rowing, and what's the worst thing about rowing?
I think the best part of rowing is watching the sunrise and mostly the sunsets too. The worst part of rowing is when it is cold outside and it's raining and it's really cold outside. It's horrible, but we push through.
Just like this week. Jamie, I'll ask you the same questions. Best thing about rowing, worst things about rowing.
I think the best thing about rowing is the drive that everyone has to want to improve themselves and compete. And I think the worst thing about rowing is I would agree with Sebastiana that the weather is definitely the worst part.
Well, if that's as bad as it gets, you guys are in good shape. We want to thank you both, Jamie and Sebastiana, for joining us here on the Bobby Moe Show. Wish you the best of luck the rest of the season. We'll be cheering for you.
Thank you
Thank
so much for
you.
having us.
All right, stay with us. We're coming back with more of the Bobby Moe Show. We'll get you caught up schedule-wise with all the sports on campus here at Bobby Moe. Coming up next.
This winter, many families in our area are struggling to make ends meet and keep their homes warm.
You can make a difference by making a donation to Dollar Energy Fund. Your contribution will be matched dollar for dollar by Dollar Energy Fund's utility partners, and 100% of all donations will be used to help local families maintain or restore basic utility services. No one should have to face a Pittsburgh winter in the cold. Help spread the warmth to your neighbors in need and donate today at dollarenergy.org. Dollar Energy Fund, helping our neighbors in need maintain basic utility service since 1983. Visit dollarenergy.org or text the word WARM, WARM, to 53555. That's WARM to 53555. All right, let's get you caught up on the rest of the teams here on campus and their schedules. First of all, softball swept a 2-game series at the University of Illinois at Chicago. They'll host Cleveland State Friday at 3 o'clock, followed by a doubleheader Saturday starting at 1. All 3 games of the series will be featured on ESPN Plus. We hope you tune in. Then on Monday, they host a doubleheader versus Green Bay starting at noon, also on ESPN Plus. Men's lacrosse, they won a thriller versus Drexel 15-14. Now they travel next to Detroit Mercy. That game will be on Saturday. Women's lacrosse lost 12-8 versus Cincinnati on Sunday. They're also traveling to Detroit to face the Titans following the men's game. And women's track, Saturday, they compete in Morgantown at the Mountaineer Classic. That's going to do it for today. Once again, thanks to our producer, Dylan Thompson. I'm Chris Shovlin. That's the Bobby Moe Show for this week. We'll talk to you next time.